Okay, the agenda for today is we're going to start with this formal welcome, approve the minutes, review and approve the agenda, which we're looking at right now. We're going to give a short overview of the bylaws and the policies and procedures. And following that, take a question and answer on the bylaws and the policies and procedures. Following our discussion, we will have a vote on the bylaws, and then we will have a vote on the policies and procedures. Is there anyone who wants to make any changes or corrections to the agenda? And I'd like to see that in the chat function as well. So, okay. All right. Seeing no opposition, I'm approving the agenda. Moving on to the next item, which is the review of the Community Council bylaws as proposed from May 11, 2020. Now, Diane, if you could put that up on the screen, the bylaws, so that everyone can have an opportunity to go through this while I talk about it. Great. Okay. The name of the organization is going to be the Vashon-Maury Island Community Council. The purpose of the council is to enable the people of Vashon-Maury Island to address important island issues. Now, these bylaws have been adopted from what has been in place for almost 40 years. We've made some changes, and I'd like to emphasize the changes. All Vashon-Maury Island residents are members of the Community Council. Only those members 16 years of age and older may vote. The previous bylaws had indicated that members had to be 18 years of age and older to vote. The reason for this change is we would like to make the Community Council more inclusive and more representative of the island. And we also would like to bring in oh, you know, Diane, sorry, I'm just trying to send a link to someone. Just 1 second. I'm going to send someone is trying to get a link into the meeting. Okay, so the Community Council is non-discriminatory. All meetings are open to all members of the island and to interested visitors. Minutes will be recorded at every Community Council committee and board meeting. Is this meeting presently being recorded, Diane? Good. Okay, and if we could move that up can you scroll up, please? Thank you. The names of all the board members in attendance will be entered into the minutes of each meeting, and the Community Council meetings will be held monthly, time and place as designated and publicized by the board. Before the COVID epidemic, we had obtained the right to conduct our monthly meetings at the Land Trust building, which is a great place for these meetings. The acoustics are good, and it's conducive for a good town hall meeting, and it's free, so the price is right too. The quorum requirement for Community Council meetings is 25 members. Now, you can have a meeting without 25 members, but votes do not count unless you have 25 members. Motions that are presented at any Community Council meeting are voted on at the next community council meeting. And that is done so that things have time to be developed in committee and people have an opportunity to review. Proxy voting is not allowed. You either have to participate in person or Article 4, Section 5 has been changed so members can participate by telecommunication, which is what we're doing now. That was kind of born out of this COVID crisis, where we've realized that this is the way to increase participation. Okay, if we can move on. Motions of an urgent nature may be voted on at the same community council meeting if authorized by a 2/3 vote of the board members present and a 2/3 vote of the community council members present. The community council shall be guided by the Democratic Rules of Order 10th edition in parliamentary procedure. We used to use the Robert's Rules of Order, but those were considered to be too strict and too hard to follow by a lot of people. And so we've moved to the Democratic Rules of Order, which are easier to follow. And the other thing is that we will be guided them by those rules, but not commanded by them. Now, the Community Council Board shall consist of 9 members. We've looked at the idea of increasing participation, and so 7 will be elected in even-numbered years, such as this year, and 2 more will be chosen by the 7 elected members. The election results will be announced at the November meeting, and the board members will take office December 1st. Board members, this is something new also, and that's with regard to term limits. Board members shall not serve 4 or more consecutive 2-year terms. So if a board member has served 4 consecutive 2-year terms and they want to serve again in the future, they need to take 2 years off and then come back in the future. Each board member shall serve as a liaison to 1 or more sectors of the island as identified in the policies and procedures. Now that's a new function for the board members. It used to be that the only real function that board members served was to help develop the agenda for the community council meetings and sometimes participate in votes. But now the board members will be used as a way to reach out to members of the island that haven't normally been heard from. The board shall meet at least monthly in open scheduled public meetings, and 6 members of the board shall constitute a quorum. The board shall develop an annual budget for the coming calendar year, subject to approval by at the November Community Council meeting. The treasurer is authorized to disperse funds in accordance with the budget and such policies as the board may develop. For expenses not previously identified in the budget, the board may authorize disbursements in amounts up to $100, but disbursements over $100 must be authorized by motion at a community council meeting. The primary duties of the board are to set agendas for the community council meetings, implement decisions taken at the community council meetings, facilitate communication between the community and government, corporate, and other entities, monitor and evaluate all committees, develop policies and procedures subject to approval at a community council meeting, engage in 2-way communication with their specific constituency and other island residents in between the community council meetings, and write the policies and procedures for the community council subject to approval by the council. Okay. Board members, as publicly elected officials of the community council, are expected to maintain high ethical standards, including avoiding conflicts of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest by abstaining from discussion or action in any member before the community council in which they, their family, or close associates have a material interest. considering the interests of the community as a whole by determining their action on any matter before the community council. Board members are subject to removal by regular motion at one community council meeting to be voted on by the members present at the next community council meeting. Removal requires a 2/3 vote of the members present by written ballot. The reason for written ballot in that case is it would be a secret ballot, whereas most ballots will be open to the public. Vacancies on the board shall be filled by the board subject to confirmation by the members present at the next community council meeting. The officers of the community council shall be a president, vice president, clerk, secretary, and treasurer. The board shall elect the officers among themselves at the December board meeting. The officers shall have and perform such duties as are customarily performed by similar organizations, subject to directions by the community council membership and such additional duties as the board, these bylaws and policies and procedures shall assign. The president shall preside at all meetings of the board and the community council. The president is an ex officio member of all committees. The vice president shall act in place of the president or the clerk during either's absence, and the clerk shall be responsible for keeping minutes and recording votes. The secretary is responsible for handling the correspondence of the community council and the board. The treasurer shall have custody of all community council funds, disperse funds as authorized, maintain customary financial records, and prepare such financial reports as the board directs. Generally, the treasurer will give a report to describe our finances at every meeting. Officers are subject to removal by regular motion at one board meeting to be voted on by the board members present at the next board meeting. Removal requires a 2/3 vote of the board members present by written ballot. Officer vacancies shall be filled by the board at its next regular meeting. Okay. Committees. The purpose of a committee is to advise the community council. Designation of committees and committee procedures will be set forth in the policies and procedures. Interim committee chairs shall be appointed by the president. The committees shall elect permanent chairs at their first meeting, and annually thereafter, subject to ratification by the board. All committees shall be reviewed annually on the election of new officers. Committees may be asked to continue at the discretion of the new officers or by vote of the membership. Committee chairs are subject to removal by regular motion at one committee meeting to be voted on by the committee members present or participating through telecommunications at the next committee meeting. Removal requires a 2/3 vote of the committee members present or participating by telecommunication. Upon removal of a committee chair, the committee shall elect a new chair subject to ratification by the board. Any vote to amend these bylaws shall be held at either the April or October community council meeting, subject to the provision outlined in this article. Next, Diane. Okay. And I think that word actually should be provisions outlined in this article. So Deb Twersky was the maker of the motion, and I will ask Deb if she would mind changing that word in section 1, the second line of section 1, article 8. So subject to the provisions outlined in this article. Deb, are you there? Okay.
Yes, I'm here and that's fine.
Okay, great. And so now the amendment will be considered as if it were the original text. Thank you. Section 2, any proposed amendments to these bylaws shall be required to be signed by 5 community council members and be presented in writing at a community council meeting. The vote on the proposed bylaw amendment shall occur at the next community council meeting no sooner than 3 months from the submission of the proposed bylaw amendment to the community council. The governance committee shall study the proposed bylaw amendment and present a report to the community council addressing the impact of the proposed bylaw amendment, outlining arguments in favor and opposed, if any, to the proposed bylaw amendment. The committee may provide majority and minority support reports to meet this requirement. The report or reports required shall be submitted to the community council at the regularly scheduled community council meeting preceding the vote. Passage of the proposed bylaw amendment shall require at least a 2/3 vote of the members present at the community council meeting at which the vote is taken. And hopefully the date of adoption will be today, the 15th day of June 2020, if we adopt these bylaws. Okay. Now, we had talked about going on to the policies and procedures then before having a discussion. If that's all right with people, we'll now go on to the policies and procedures.
David, could we do a summary rather than read them line by line?
Yeah, I'd like to. Of the policies and procedures, because they're a lot more detailed. Now, the VMICC operates as a participatory, nonpartisan forum, sometimes called a town meeting, one person, one vote. Now, Diane, if you could put those up, that's great. The policies and procedures. And the intent is to represent the interests of the Vashon-Maury Island community and to limit the issues brought to those that affect the community. So private concerns are not things that are intended to be brought to the community council. Neighborhood disputes. What it needs to be is an island-wide concern. We're hoping to conduct outreach to residents and island organizations and assist as we can groups in dealing with the government and other entities. We want to establish points of contact with appropriate government entities and other entities. And we hope to comply with the spirit of the Open Public Meetings Act in all operations. We're hoping to be accessible to island residents and participants. We're hoping to be a strong advocate for island issues at all levels and to seek out and consider all sides of island issues while striving for equity and fairness. So we are to be a leader in representing the changing needs of the island community. Now, general meetings, the president chairs the meeting and tries to ensure an orderly meeting. Written and digital copies of the agenda should be available to all attendees. And so the general meetings are generally controlled by the bylaws. The board operation is made more specific in these policies and procedures. And so we want to make sure that the board members attend as many meetings as they can. So if they're not going to attend a meeting, they should notify the president that they're not going to be attend. If a member of the board misses more than 3 meetings in more than three meetings in a 3-month period, I don't think that's correct. I think that Deb, I believe this should be a 6-month period, not a 3-month period. Would you be agreeable to modify? Oh, wait, Diane, you were the one who made the motion on the policies and procedures. Diane, would you accept an amendment so that it's more than 3 meetings in a 6-month period?
Unmute yourself, Diane. Diane, unmute yourself.
Yes, I have unmuted myself. Thank you.
Okay. And I see the change made already. The members make a brief statement to the board explaining attendance difficulties and a plan to increase attendance. If a member anticipates coming to no meetings for 2 or more consecutive months, that person should take a leave of absence or resign pending re-election at the next election. So the board members have to be aware of the bylaws, the policies, and procedures. Board actions require a quorum. The board may designate specific responsibilities aside from the normal descriptions, and the board shall develop an operating budget annually for the council. The board should designate liaisons with all of its committees and also with various sectors of the island. And these sectors are spelled out. Now, there are also, it's spelled out, but if you could scroll up a little bit, Diane, there are others as well. But these are sectors of the island that are very important to island-wide issues. Affordable housing, business, culture and history. You can see all these various interests. And so we need to use the board as a liaison with members of these communities and people who have these interests. There will be 7 elected board members, and the 7 elected members will then promptly choose 2 more members for a total of 9. And these 2 additional members will be selected for their ability to effectively liaison with 2 or more sectors on the island that would otherwise be underrepresented on the board. The board should ensure that the press has a copy of the community council agenda in time to provide reasonable notice, and a quorum of the board may communicate or otherwise take immediate emergency actions on matters of importance without community council permission, provided that the matter would be moot otherwise, and provided also that the action is in accordance with the bylaws and adopted policy. The president shall describe the action at the next community council meeting and invite comment. If the community council is opposed, then the board shall take action consistent with the council's wishes. Now, the policies and procedures for committees are important. The committees are where a lot of the decision-making of the community council takes place, where a lot of the issues that are too complicated to just be discussed in one meeting are hammered out. So the committees are agencies of the community council and derive their authority from the community council. They don't have the ability or the right to communicate their own policies to other agencies. They are acting only within the purview of the community council. So they have to be consistent with the bylaws, policies, and their individual charters. They must seek the prior advice and consent of the community council before committing the community council to actions or public positions. Unless otherwise directed by the board, all committee recommendations are forwarded to the council with the reason for these recommendations. Now, it's normally the function of the community council to make final decisions and communicate with outside agencies. One thing that is has been of concern is that sometimes a committee will have a hot issue and it will get a lot of people who are not normally members of that committee for a vote. Now, the votes have to be recorded and communicated to the community council. And if the community council decides that, well, this vote was just stacked, it's against the interest of the community council can then send it back to the committee for further action. The board, in conjunction with each committee, shall develop and regularly update a charter outlining the committee's authority. Committees should develop their own operating procedures, and they should meet the spirit of the Open Meetings Act and provide accessibility to all interested parties and members of the community council. Any island resident may attend and participate. The committees, though, can select their own committees. Committees must elect their chairs annually, A chair cannot serve a third term unless approved by the board prior to the election. Again, we're trying to impose some term limits here. The intent of this policy is to allow for increased participation. A 2-year chair may be elected again after a year out of office. If the committee does not elect a chair, the board shall appoint one. The committee shall keep minutes of all meetings. These minutes will include a record of all committee actions such as votes, a list of all those present at the meeting. Copies of the minutes should be submitted to the council clerk, who will provide copies periodically to the library and to the webmaster for posting. Committee chairs, meetings should occur on a regular basis at a public facility so that, again, we can encourage participation. For any topic under consideration, committee chair shall make all reasonable effort to notify all interested parties. Committee chairs should be present at the council meetings to give reports of their activities as requested, and the board should designate a board member as a liaison with all committees. As an agency, documented committee expenses are council expenses, and they can't be incurred without prior board approval if they exceed $100. If a committee wishes to increase its yearly budget above $100, it must submit a budget request to the board treasurer prior to the November board meeting. Budget request includes all the purposes, et cetera, et cetera. All requests for expense reimbursement must be submitted to the treasurer. As an agency of the community council, committee income is community council income and shall be submitted to the treasurer within 15 days of receipt. And committee chair actions, reports, etc., must reflect the wishes of the committee. A committee chair cannot be a rogue. Okay, now the policies and procedures for elections. This has been something that we've had to look at because of COVID and other things. Voting is available to all island residents 16 years or older. Candidates may be any island resident who's 16 years or older. Candidate forms will be provided by the nominating committee to be filled out and returned by a specific date determined by the committee. Candidates run in a nonpartisan committee capacity, and elections may be held in conjunction with regular general elections. But since the general elections are now being done by mail, the previous benefit of having a polling place is no longer really there. The elections will be by ranked choice voting. Ballots may also contain advisory issues. Ballots, now here's the thing, ballots shall be mailed to all island postal addresses or hosted on the website for all members who've registered as community council members on the website with member identification and password. Same day registration is allowed. Now, in a perfect world, we would send out mail ballots, but it costs about $1,200 to do that. And right now we don't have much of a budget. Paper ballots will also be available upon request for mail-in elections. Voters are honor-bound to submit only one official ballot per eligible voter. Voter names will be protected by double envelopes if we have mail ballots, or by separate vote tabulation files without names for website voting. The option of online voting may be made available. This year will clearly be an online vote. The board shall appoint an election committee, recruit and train poll workers as required, again, if we're going to have poll workers, and these policies and procedures may be amended down the road. We've already seen reasons to change some things. Recruit and train vote tally persons and observers as required. Prepare ballots if 5 or more candidates are nominated. Select parameters for ranked choice voting. Mail one ballot with instructions or provide notice of website election to all VMICC members. announce availability of special ballots if needed, designate place and time for return of voted ballots if paper ballots are used. And again, there's really no need to go into the paper ballots at this time because we're not going to do paper ballots this year. The election wrap-up, we return all materials to the designated location, tabulate ballots using ranked choice voting, and you can look at the resources section for more information. Election committee announces final results at November community council meeting. Hold the paper ballot and electronic voting results until the next election has been completed. Now, the voting and meeting decorum, there are two voting categories common to the community council. They are yes or no, yay or nay. Both are indicated by raising and counting of hands, or as we're doing now in the chat. At the discretion of the chair, voting by those physically present may be done anonymously. There will be some issues that are sensitive, and so in those cases, we'll be taking these things by a written ballot. Meeting decorum. This is important. We strive ourselves on conducting business in a professional, respectful, and courteous manner. If people choose not to be courteous, they will be excluded from a meeting. That's rarely done, and rarely do you have to be. Do you have to do something? Common courtesy and respect is expected. Rudeness and bad behavior are not acceptable, nor will they be tolerated, especially when commenting on council business or motion raised or discussed before the council, and most assuredly at council committee meetings. So there's a big difference between having a spirited meeting and having a disrespectful meeting. So meetings will be stopped when they become disrespectful until we can restore decorum and your understanding cooperation is appreciated. That's basically it. So at this point, we would like to have people participate with questions, and hopefully we can provide answers for those questions.
Okay, one point of clarification. That is that on voting, we are not using the chat function. We're going to have online voting that Diane will send out.
Oh, okay. I don't know how that's done.
That's done with
Diane does.
That's done with a poll. Webex has a poll function, and we can do it that way. The people who are participating by telephone, we will have to ask them separately how they vote.
Okay. Okay, now,
I have a comment.
Okay.
On the policies and procedures, I think the second one that had to do with the board, I think I saw the words 11 members somewhere.
Oh, really? Where was that? Sorry.
I think we missed it.
Yeah, that's possible.
I think we missed an 11 and it's supposed to be 9.
Right. Well, Diane, if you find an 11 there, could you change it to 9? Even okay. Well, we will consider it amended. Mr. Mackey?
There are none.
Yeah, I don't see any either. Oh, wait, I was looking, yeah, I don't see where it would say 11. Okay. Okay, are there other questions?
It looks like David Vogel has a question in the chat.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see. Let's see.
Ella, could you read it?
Where is the
Yeah.
National Legal Organization of VMICC stated described? This is from David Goebel. Now, what we are planning to do is incorporate the VMICC as a not-for-profit corporation under state law, and then incorporate as a 501c3 under federal law, so that we can be a charitable, not-for-profit organization. That will limit our ability to lobby for legislation and rulemaking, but it does not limit our ability to lobby organizations for island issues. Okay,
David, the question was whether it should be included in the bylaws or policies.
which is what?
501c3, should we mention that anywhere?
You know, that might be something that we could include in the policies and procedures, but we could do that after we incorporate as a 501c3. Okay. We can do that down the road. That's a good idea, David. And I think that would be the plan. But at this point, we are not yet incorporated as a 501c3.
I would, this is Deb Tversky, and I would just say, if you need to have that, you could find out in your, when you're filing articles of incorporation with the IRS, and then you'd have a reason to add it. If you don't need to add it, there's no reason to do it at this time.
Okay, good answer, Deb. There's another question I see, and that is, the sectors on the island, is that a final list or a moving target? Justine, there's a reason it's in the policies and procedures, and that is because they're more flexible than the bylaws. And the intent is there is an others category, and so it's clearly a moving target. Okay. Adam Day had a question.
Yeah, my question was also about the sectors. I thought that was a little bit of an incomplete list, so I just, yeah, but if it's a moving target, then that's better, I think.
Yeah, and we want to include more and more sectors as we discover them. Okay. And then from Seth Zuckerman.
Hi, my question's about the idea of being honor-bound to submit only one ballot. And I guess if the council, it doesn't really have a lot of influence, that would be okay. But once the council began to have influence, it would seem like people's votes would matter, and then you would want something a little bit tighter than just people being honor-bound.
Okay. You know, it's been honor-bound for 40 years, and it has worked that way so far. I suppose that people can cheat in this era where we have new technology. It might be easier to do that rather than having to go to a person and represent yourself to be something other than you are. But until we find that there is cheating going on, I think we're going to just have to go with honor bound, because we don't have the technical capability yet to decide that someone is actually an island resident when they call in by phone, for example. But the fact is, we've had the island only has as much influence as it's perceived. I mean, the community council has as much influence as it's perceived to have. And the better things are run over the years, the more influence it gets. And so again, that's something that when the technology improves, when we have the capability of being able to identify each person by some kind of digital signature, then maybe we can change it so that way the ballots are better counted. In terms of the board election, people have to understand the board is not a representative body. It's not like we're electing a board to speak for us. The board has certain functions, and its primary function is to reach out to members of the island. So the board elections are somewhat important, but it's not as if we're electing a representative body. Generally, the votes that are important are at the meetings themselves by each individual. Okay. Is there another question? Let's see. Okay, Jill, please clarify Article 5, Section 1. Do you mean to say that 3 consecutive terms is the limit? It says shall not serve 4 or more, so 4 are not allowed. That's correct. You can, if it says 4 or more, oh, excuse me, that's section, that's in the bylaws, correct? Article 5, section, yeah. Section 1, and it says shall not serve 4 or more. So it is 3 consecutive terms of 2 years. So after 3 consecutive terms, you need to take a break. Jill, Jano, did you get my answer? Jill, are you there? You there?
Yes, I got your answer.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, then committees doing stuff in violation of essentially these same rules led to the collapse of the VMICC last year, 10-ish years ago. Armin, did you want to clarify that? Is Armin participating? Oh, there he is. Armin?
Armin, your audio is gone.
Hello, Armin, can you hear us?
Well, can you hear me from my phone?
Yeah, I can hear you from the phone.
Yeah, it was a passing comment that I posted at the time that you were discussing committees. I don't need to elaborate.
Okay, and I think the key is to allow good participation and, you know, follow the rules. Yeah. So thank you, Armin. Do we have any other questions about these bylaws or the policies and procedures? Okay. Now, Deb Twersky was the maker of the motion. Seeing no further discussion on the bylaws, I would like to call for a vote. Now, we need to ask Diane Emerson how that can be done.
Yes, let me unmute myself here. I'm unmuted. Okay. So I would like to know how you would like the question worded, and I can put that in as a poll, and then we can send it out and people can do a yes or no. So
okay,
how would you like it worded?
The motion is all those in favor of passing the bylaws, yay or nay?
So I have a question and a point of order and such. Do we know that we have a quorum?
We have 27 participants. That's what it indicates.
That's what it indicates, but Armin is on there twice, right?
I don't see Armin twice now. I see him once.
His name is, okay, his name was there and then he was on a separate line with a phone. How many people are like that?
Before, but he's now shown once.
And how many other people are in the
I'm just thinking that Bong is not going to vote, right?
Correct.
And he's one of the 27 participants.
So we're down to 26.
Just saying.
Okay. And I did see that there was one couple who are both there on the computer. I'm wondering if we would be able to have two people voting where they're both together. Was that 15127?
I'll unmute 15127.
Okay. Do you have two people there at 15127?
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's two of us here.
So I don't see why the two of you shouldn't be counted as two participants.
Okay.
You should both be able to vote. Just because you have one computer doesn't make you one participant.
Hey, Dan.
That sounds great.
Okay. So we now have 27 participants.
Right.
And also, since 15127 cannot,
they're going to count both of us.
I don't know if they have a screen.
They have a screen.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I see the poll question now.
Can you go ahead, David? Everybody fill it out.
Okay, all those people who can, please fill out your poll question and vote. And then the other thing is there were some phone participants. Are we able to get their votes too?
Yes, we'll get those here. I will call in user 5206-371. Is that, that's Armin.
Okay.
So we don't need that one. And the other.
They're going to need to be polled twice because only one person can sign yes.
Right. Right. No, Armin cannot vote twice.
We don't.
Yes, I'm in reference to the couple that are together.
Correct.
If only one poll comes up for them to vote, then only one of them can vote. It would have to be submitted to them twice.
Right. Can we do that, Diane? Can you submit that to them twice?
No, we can't, but each one is identified, and we can, if there's an issue, we can count that one. We can also, Seth and Nick Zuckerman could be counted as two if we needed to.
And,
only if we need to, we would
okay.
with that.
And the other thing is, there's nothing wrong with having them say whether they're voting. Just because we have this technology doesn't mean we're bound by it. Okay. So, you know, if we can see 15127 as people and they say yes, yes, and they raise their hands, I think that's a good way to count them. Okay.
Yes.
Are we getting some response on the poll now?
Yes, we have 20 of 25 people have finished, so we will go ahead and close the poll. Oh, Adam has a quick question.
Okay, Adam?
Okay,
yeah, I missed this when I was reviewing the bylaws the last time, but in the beginning of the bylaws, I know this, I don't want to open up a whole can of worms, but the membership about not being discriminatory, it is missing gender identity, and I think that's really important as a island community that tries to be inclusive.
Oh,
that we have that as missing from our bylaws.
We have sexual orientation, but
yes, that is different from gender identity.
Yeah. Deb, would you be willing to add that as the maker of the motion? Gender identity, because that is a good addition, Adam.
Yeah.
Okay. We will add that in there because it's very similar to, it's in keeping with the motion.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And the Supreme Court finally did something right.
Yes. I've added it.
Okay. It's very funny that Donald Trump cannot control his personality, and the person he really needed as an ally, Justice Roberts, he's made into an enemy.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see. Okay. Are there more people who need to vote on the bylaws?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, sounds good. Well, then the next question
Wait,
will...
wait, hang on a second before we.
Okay.
I'm trying to share this with everybody, and it's not letting me. So I'm going to have to just tell you what the results were.
We can see the results.
You can see the results?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah, I can see them too.
Wasn't
Yes.
sure you could see them. So it passed.
Well, good.
Very
Passed
good.
resoundingly. All right. The next issue is Diane's motion, and that is to approve the bylaws. And so the question should be, are you in favor of approving the proposed bylaws? Yay or yes or no?
No poll
Yes,
posted yet.
I've got to do that.
Okay.
It's asking me if I want to save the results and everything, and I do, so. Okay.
Okay, we're voting on policy procedures now, correct? Not bylaws? Okay.
Thanks, Diane.
Not that it matters for today, David, but why is there not an abstention category in voting?
Well,
The abstention shows as not voting.
yes,
So
it shows it's not voting.
I'm not talking about today, when in the, wherever David read today, it says vote yay or nay. Those were the two votes. It wasn't a category for abstention. I'm just curious.
Oh, David, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's how they describe the voting in the Democratic Rules of Order, as either yay or nay.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than abstaining.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Oh, you guys are fast.
I have a similar question for the policy before, sorry, I know we're voting right now.
Okay.
Just to echo off of what was said before, by gender designation, where it says in general meetings, president or his or her designate, should that be just or their designate or?
Oh, okay. Yeah, or their designate sounds better.
Kyle, where was that?
Under general meetings, VMICC, general meetings and board operations policies, general meetings, first sentence, president, parentheses, or his or her designate, parentheses, shall chair.
Okay, I made that change.
Okay, or their designate.
Yes. I think that's the only place we had anything like that.
Okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle.
Okay, so we have a few people who haven't voted yet. And okay. So there are 22 of 26 people have finished voting. One person still in progress. And okay, so I think we're finished.
Okay.
We'll close the poll and we will see the results.
All right. Well,
I can see a 21 of 26.
yeah,
Yay.
that's good.
I
Well,
just see access to the file is denied.
I'm sorry, what was that?
oh, it says on the side though, where it says polling, it gives the reports of the polling.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
So you didn't need to show that on the screen, Diane.
I didn't have a choice.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, so we'll clear that.
All right. Well, then I guess at this point, I should announce that our next meeting will be Monday, July 20th. By that time, I expect we will be a not-for-profit state incorporated entity. And we are planning to have Bong. Taylor was invited to our next meeting. And if you could just remind him of that. Are you still there, Bong? There he is.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I hope that John can participate in the next meeting, because that way we can discuss some county issues.
His calendar.
Okay,
for,
great.
Next month.
Good work. Good work. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating. The Vashon-Maury Island Community Council is back in business.
Woohoo!
Okay, well, good night and have a good evening. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say, David, I checked through the democratic rules of order. Show me sometime the extension omission. So
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
yeah, it's okay. You know, because when it talks about voting in there, it says that more
Yeah.
than half vote affirmative. But there are people that would like to abstain on an issue, not vote either way. I think they should be allowed that. So see if it's allowable.
Well, I'm looking at page 23, Jake.
Yeah.
It says after the members have decided to vote either by general consensus or by passing a motion to vote, the chair or the secretary shall read out the motion again, and the chair should make sure that all members understand it. Then the chair should call for the vote with all in favor of the motion, please say yes. All opposed, say no. And it does not have a category for all those abstained.
The no answers are the abstains.
Yeah, the no answers are the abstention.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And no one will ever count the. No one will ever count the votes that are voters that don't vote. Okay.
What was that?
No one will count votes who don't vote. It's informative if you know.
Yeah, we did not vote. I guess you could use that as a category.
Well, the element is that you have the total number of participants and the total number of votes. So if you have any numbers that don't add up to yes or no, those are those who chose not to vote. So the information is there.
Or those like me who forgot to hit the submit button.
There you go.
Or people like me that didn't have a chance.
I bet you won't do that again.
See, sort of like Trump there, you would have.
If
you'd have a motion passed that didn't have a majority of the participants.
Right. Okay.
David Bong had a question, I believe. Bong, did you want to make a statement or share something?
Yeah.
And
So
David,
real
mute
quick.
yourself.
Oh, I'm going to stop recording, guys, by the way.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
David,
Guys
mute
hear me?
yourself while he's talking.